Hello everybody, good morning. Welcome back. So what are we doing today? Today I'm going to be working on a new algorithm for generating the enemy combats. So a lot of my effort for the past week or so has been overhauling certain aspects of the game. Of course, we did the alchemy, started working on a reagent system for that, making the alchemy cost money, all that good stuff. And now I need to get the combat under control because the difficulty of the combat is kind of like widely variable. It's, you know, the difficulty falls within a certain range based on the tier of the combat node, but I wanted to try to see if I can smooth out the difficulty curve. And that's going to be really useful, especially if I introduce something like a new game plus. I need to have more control over what the perceived difficulty of the combats is. And so what basically I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be using a set of heuristics. Most of these numbers are just going to be pulled out of thin air, but adding more numbers to more things in the game to hopefully get more control over how difficult the combat encounters are. So I have a rough plan for that, which I've written down and I'm going to be roughly following. And we're gonna see how it works. I don't think it's going to take that much effort to get into place, but it's going to be very code heavy stream today. But before I get into that, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler with alchemy. So definitely give that wish list if you're interested. You can also support the project on Patreon. As a reminder, the sponsor tier here, if you subscribe to this for at least 1 month at any point during development, you will be sent an Alchemortis Steam key for the full game at launch, so when it releases on Steam, and your name will also be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So this is kind of like a pre-purchase, perk that you can think about. You can think about it in that way anyway. So I hope you consider doing that. And also I have my Udemy courses available for sale. These are a great way to learn how to build games in the Godot engine, and it's also a great way to support me, so I hope you'll check those out as well. You can also join the Discord, that is totally free, and like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. All right, what are we going to start with here? That's a good question. That is a good question. So I think the first thing to do, basically the way that I think these, well, let me say hello to everyone first before I go into it. Hello, Clickertail, welcome, welcome. Sam Studio, good to see you. Good to see you again. I not doggo, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Hello, V, welcome back. Meep, hello. Jhar, welcome, welcome. Bet he can't read algorithmization out loud correctly the first time. I think I did it. A new algorithm, wave function collapse? No. Hello, Emerson. How many wish lists at the moment? I don't know. I haven't checked. I haven't checked in a while. Last time I checked, it was like 850. We need to pump up those rookie numbers, though. But welcome back, nobody. Hello, Nick. Good to see you. Good morning. Good morning to you. We're going to be working on the heuristic stuff today. See how it goes. Yeah. Welcome, by the way, High Law. Wave function collapse. All right. Hello, JKHE. Always good to see you. So, yeah, let me see. So I've just kind of like written down, I came up with this algorithm kind of off the top of my head, which is somewhat dangerous because it might not work the way that I want it to work, but we're going to try this. So the idea to smooth out the combat difficulty, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I got to stop eating frogs. The core idea behind this is that we need to assign a score to each of the combat nodes, or sorry, each of the nodes on the map. And the score is going to be roughly a rough representation of the perceived power increase of the player. So a combat is not going to be much of a power increase. So when you finish a combat node, it's not much of a power increase because you're not really getting anything except blood from it. A reagent, is maybe a moderate power increase. Card upgrade, same deal. Board size increase, that's going to be a relatively large power increase. And we just assign this score to all these different nodes based on some sort of like perceived power level. And again, these numbers are basically just going to have to be tweaked to get them in line with their power. They're just heuristics. They're just slap a judgment number on it and then tweak it from there. So every node on the map is going to have a point value assigned to it, a score assigned to it. And then we're also going to be scoring boards. So we're going to say every cell that is occupied by a card in a board, or another way to say this is every card has a score that's 50 times the number of points. So a 2x2 card is going to be 200 points. Again, these numbers can all change, but this is the basic idea. And so generally speaking, a 200 point increase in the score should be roughly equivalent to the power of a 2x2 card. That's just something that I'm kind of like nailing down as like a base metric. Again, going to need to be played with. But what these scores are going to do is these are going to be used for the generation of enemy combat boards. So the way that I'm going to approach this is we're going to look at the node that's being generated. And what we're going to do is we are going to sum up all of the scores of all the nodes on the map with a lower on-screen Y position. So any node that is to the south. This may change. I may need to make this a little bit smarter, but this is what we're going to start with. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that summed up score. So if you have 20 nodes that are all to the south of the current combat node that we're visiting, we're going to sum up all those nodes. But then what we're going to do is divide that score by the minimum number of traversals required to get to the current node. So let's say it takes you 6 jumps or 6 traversals to get to the combat node that we're generating from the start. We're going to take those 20 summed up nodes and divide them by 6, and that's going to be the score. And then we're going to use that score we're going to fit a board to that score. So we'll say as part of the generation, here's that score that we divided out. So we summed up all those nodes, we divided out the score. Now we're going to fit an enemy board to that score, and fitting the board to that score is going to be a function of how large the board is, the total card score. So remember, each cell is going to be 50 points or something like that. And then we'll also want to have some kind of score for if a card is upgraded, what multiple is that? Like, does that multiply out the score a little bit? And then then we're going to introduce some kind of bias. So we'll have a bias that can be multiplied out by that final score that we want to fit the board to. And then that bias can be tweaked based on the game difficulty, right? So you can imagine if you enter a new game plus, maybe the bias is a little bit higher. So we might have a bias of, let's just call it 1 for the standard difficulty. And then the bias might be 1.1 for the next highest difficulty and 1.2 for the difficulty after that. So the idea is that we could get down to a single bias number that we could tweak to change the perceived difficulty to be either easier or harder. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to see how it works. And we're going to probably have to add more stuff to it. Stoked to see the implementation you land on. Yeah. Hello, Neozoid. I would add, don't forget about the multiplicative power of turn rate to a card's combat output. Yeah, I'm gonna see how necessary that is, because getting into scoring, I guess I could come up with a generic way of scoring the card, like having some kind of multiplier for its turn rate. But I think the way that the game is generally structured is that cards with higher turn rates are generally more powerful than cards with lower turn rates. So I'm kind of hoping that that just all balances out in the end. That if I just score a card based on its size, that will roughly be an appropriate capturing of its power. But we can definitely get into adding some extra scoring parameters if that ends up being inadequate. The problem is, I think I might have to do, at that point, I might have to do scoring not just on the turns that it takes, but also on like the individual abilities that it has. And because each ability that I have is like composed, so like all these cards here, they have like just inline defined abilities. I'll basically need to go through all of these and somehow apply a score to all of them. There may be a way to standardize the scores of some types of abilities, but that's a lot of work that I'm going to try to avoid initially, but I will go into scoring abilities individually if I need that level of control. So yeah. Yeah, the cards themselves are not subject to procedural generation, right? They're defined ahead of time. So like the enemy doesn't have access to the alchemy system, so all the enemy cards are going to be predictable. They're not going to change. So like if a pike gets placed on the board, it's always going to have the same abilities. The only difference is it might be upgraded once or twice to match the difficulty. The player is the one that can create cards that are all these wacky, zany things, but I don't think we necessarily need to score the player board directly for a couple of reasons. One, we still need to preserve the seeded runs, and so if we're changing the enemy combat encounters based on what the current power of the player board is, then that kind of defeats the purpose of the seeded run. And also, you know, by summing up all of the nodes that are theoretically traversable before the current node, we can kind of capture, I think, a little bit of like what the player power is or what the player power is expected to be. Again, I don't know how this is going to work. We're going to have to get this working and then see what the result is. Good morning, Ninja Link. Maybe scoring raw stats over cards due to alchemy. Yeah, that could work. You'd also need to pick a turn rate cap since it'd be the reciprocal. Right. I already have a soft cap, which is 1. Or no, I don't. I actually think it's a hard cap. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out what the best approach to do this is from a technical perspective. I think just creating some new I'm just going to go ahead and slap this in here. Probably going to need to refactor and move things around as this gets built out, but we're going to start with this. Public static class difficulty scorer. Okay. So we're going to want to create a mapping first. And we're going to do event type to int score. Maybe I'll make this a float, but maybe not. Okay. Event type.puzzle.exploration. What the heck? Okay. Copilot, you're getting on my nerves. All right. Let's just put this over here. Let's do this in order. So I'm just going to put in my numbers that I had here. Oh, we don't have an alchemy one anymore. Should probably remove that. Upgrade card. Okay, so max health. Upgrade card. That's also 100. Booster. Artifact 250. We'll just put visited as 0 in there, I suppose. Checkpoint as 0. Event type dot reagent. Oops. Okay. All right, we're done. Maybe a function on a card itself to calculate score. A static utility class is a good approach too. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go with the static utility class. Because my base card is already, like, just absolutely stuffed. Anyway, so we've got our event typed scores. Hello, Kinyaz. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Jackie Daytona, it's time for game dev once again. Welcome. Good to see you. Okay, so we've got the event type scores. So what am I going to need to do? I'm going to need to get a score for public static int get score for combat node. And I think we're going to do like a run map node. I think we need the run map as well. And basically what I'm going to do is var southern nodes is equal to map dot nodes dot where x dot position dot y is greater than run map node dot position dot y. I'm going to rename this to combat node. Okay, so we've got all those. What we're going to do now is we're going to do var sum is equal to southern nodes dot sum. We're going to sum up the scores of all the event types. Then we're going to say var minimum traversals is equal to map dot get minimum distance to node from node map dot start node to the combat node. And then we're going to take this sum is equal to sum divided by minimum traversals. This, yeah, that should work. So we can return desired score. Okay. I think that will get the score at least. Now we need to go to the run map generator. Assign node types. Node set event type. Event type. Okay. Oh, actually, I don't need to do this in here. Seeded run, I think, is where I need to do it. Generate combat encounters here. Okay. Generate combat configuration. So yeah, we're going to need to do this. Do we have a reference to the run map? We do. So var desired score is equal to difficulty scorer dot get score for combat node. Run map node. Okay, now the generate combat configuration, this is where the score is going to need to be accounted for. You can also initialize an inner dictionary as key equals value instead of key value. Oh, interesting. Might have to do that. Hello, Ariane. Welcome back. Good to see you. I kind of want to see just what these scores are looking like. How does the .NET version of Godot feel? I use a lot of the node drag dropping in the engine editor. Do you feel you miss out on that kind of stuff? I don't feel like I miss out on that kind of stuff because I have a little source generator library that allows me to get stuff easily. So I can just annotate these things with this node attribute, and then it will just match up the node based on the member name. That's available publicly too. It's called Godot Utilities. It's available on NuGet, and it's also available on my GitHub. So you can check that out. Could you show how they did the drag and dropping for cards and slots? Maybe at some point. Yeah, it's a little bit convoluted. So that would be quite a detour. Item with the same key has already been added. Oh, I added reagent twice. Oops. Let's see what kind of scores we get. It's not going to be super helpful, but just want to see. So we've got a score of 1,000 there, 775. So remember, roughly a 200-point score should be something like a 2x2 card. So we have a score of 12 here. We've got a score of 38. That's going to be a little bit weird, I think, but lots of 400, 500 numbers. Okay, but I would say they generally look around what I would have expected. So let's just keep going on. So there's going to have to be an element of the score to this that determines how much health the thing has. Anyway, so generate combat configuration. This is going to need to change. So the generation args, let's do public required int fit to score. Okay. So generate combat configuration. So the board size is going to need to be a little bit weird. And also we have this board configuration model generate. Okay. So there's a couple of weird factors here. So if I have a high score, but I have a small board size such that I can't reach the score simply by placing cards, there needs to be other ways to get that score to match. So that would have to be with upgrading cards. So this enemy board generator now, this probably inside of this generate here. Inside of this generate, I probably need to also pass along that score. We're going to make this nullable because I don't want to have to require it. So we're going to pass that in. So let's go ahead and do this now. Public static int get score for card. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do something very simple. Private static, private const int score per card cell. return base card dot relative occupied cells dot count times score per card cell. So that can be improved later. So this generate board is the core thing. So let's do this. Private int get score for board. And what we're going to do is we are going to take that board inventory component dot get cards on board dot select or dot sum card difficulty score get score for card, return that. Okay, so we have these generation args here. Generate board. Do I need to pass the args into here? Probably. So I'll pass those args into there. And then in here, while tiles.count is greater than 0 and args fit to score is equal to null, or get score for board is less than. I don't want this. Okay, that should work. I could probably move this whole thing to that difficulty scorer, but we'll keep it in here for now. So I've got that enemy board generator. That should restrict it based on the score now. I'm gonna get rid of this card upgrade count. For now. Let's see if that does anything. So go to game debug. We're going to debug fog reveal radius 3000. See what that does. Hello, Mioleo Dev. How's progress going? It's going pretty good. Going pretty good. Got the alchemy all as a standalone thing now. So let's see. So I think it would be useful, let's see. I'm trying to think of what debug tools I could add. Because I know enough about these cards to be able to judge what the difficulty of the board is going to be. These are all too easy. So these combats are too easy. So I think what that tells me is that I probably need to increase the weights of the nodes. Is the folder coloring in your Godot file browser part of the editor theme? No, it's built into Godot since 4.3 or 4.4, I think. So yeah, you can just right click here and set folder color, and that's it. Easy, easy peasy. Okay, so let's beef up some of these things. I'm actually just going to do a doubling of everything except the combat. I'm going to keep that relatively low. We're going to try a doubling of all these numbers and see if that creates a much different output. I'm going to need to add some sophisticated like debug logging in here too, so I can track everything. But let's see, prisoner 1, torch arming sword, torch friar prayer beads. That's a tough one. The one thing I do want to do is I want to verify that that score is actually working. So let's see. I just want to put a log in here if this generation loop ends because the score for board is greater than or equal to this. So let's just do this. gd.print ended board generation due to score fit. Let's see if that gets logged at all in the output. If it doesn't, we have a problem. Okay, so it only happened a handful of times. I can probably just go ahead and add in here. I'll just print the score as well. My hunch is that that's happening for the low scores, but not happening for the high scores. So score fit of 0 on that one. Why? Because we have a combat here. No, we shouldn't have a score of 0 anywhere, so something's wrong. Oh, maybe this one. Oh, I see. So maybe I don't think my approach, so again, I'm taking the approach of just taking every node south, but that means that all these combats here are going to be ridiculously easy, even though they're far away from the start. So I might need to come up with a different way of summing up that power. $12.26. That would be one probably up here somewhere. Let me think. I mean, there's like 100 combats on the board, which means that the vast majority of them are not being fit to the score. Now, I still have this ability to increase the difficulty, like the tier of the cards. Which can bring it up to the level. But yeah, I don't think that this way of doing it, minimum distance to node. I wonder if I should do something else like... So instead of getting all the nodes south of this node, let's say that this takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 traversals to get to that combat node. What I could do is I could get all the nodes instead within a 6 traversal radius of the start and use that for the score instead. Let's see if that works. So instead of this, what I want to do is var nodes in traversal radius. Let's put the minimum traversals up to map.get nodes. Can I get the nodes in radius? Here. Run map get connections with depth. Okay. So that's static for some reason. Run map.get connections within depth from the map.start node minimum traversals. And then we're going to sum those up instead. I need a way of showing the score on the node itself. I should add that to the tooltip. How would I add that to the tooltip? This is based on a run map node, so public int debug score. We'll just assign that debug score. So in the seeded run here, node.debug score is equal to desired score, and then in the map node tooltip, we can go ahead and add that. I'll just add it to the tier label actually. If os.isDebug build, oops, tier label.text plus equals score map debug score. Okay, that should work. Let's take a gander at that. You need to use wave function collabs, yeah. Yes, thank you, V. Okay, score 300 there, score 300 there, score 416 there, score 400 there, 400 there, 400 there, 483, 564, 788, 922, 923, that's also 923, 950, 947, okay, I think that's much more reasonable. I think let me think. I need to change how the board size is determined for these enemy boards as well, because I think that's a limiting factor in a lot of these cases. Because again, we're still only actually matching the score of tiny few cases. Now I still have other levers to pull, right? Like change the health, change the board size. How do I want to do that though? How do I want to do that? If I said 200, a score of 200 is roughly equal to a 2x2 card, so that's 50 per cell. If I've got a score of 953, what is that divided by 5? I don't know. 950 divided by 50. So that's 19. So 19 cells. Oh, I have to take this 1 second. Sorry, got a phone call. BRB. Oops. Okay, I'm back. Totally unrelated to what you're doing now. Hello, Coral. But have you thought about having the cursor change a bit when hovering over something? I have not, but I can definitely do that if you have suggestions. I definitely do think I want to add more animation and dynamism to just the presentation of the game, I guess you could say. What do you think about 3D game creation? I think 3D games are great. I don't I don't have any specific experience in 3D though, so I can't really speak intelligently about it. The reason I don't do 3D because I'm doing solo developing, and I feel like 3D is just going to be a lot more effort. I might do it someday. If I ever did 3D, I would try to stick to the skills that I know as much as possible. So what I would probably do if I was wanting to do 3D is I would try to do like just something very basic with basically no like physically based rendering and like pixel art textures. That's probably what I would do for my first foray into a 3D game. Because I don't know anything about how to create like 3D environments and how to make the game look good in 360 directions, and you know, doing all the animations and stuff. Also, you know, performance becomes much more of a concern in 3D, especially if you've got like long sight lines and large maps. So yeah, just a lot of skills that I have not yet developed. That's why I don't do 3D. Maybe we could do a 3D project together in the future. Maybe. I definitely, like, I've mentioned this before, but I really am curious about experimenting with that tool Crocotile, because it's a 3D modeling tool that is specifically designed for putting pixel art textures on your 3D models. So it has like all the tooling built in to make sure that every pixel of every texture is the same size, which I think is super cool. So it's basically like it's an interesting tool for creating low poly 3D models with like pixel perfect textures. So I definitely want to check that out. 3D project to learn when you finish the game. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Alchemortis goes. If you all don't buy Alchemortis, I might have to go get a real job again. So we're gonna have to see. Anyway, so yeah, I think there's a couple of problems here. The board size, I think, is something that I want to change. Do I have that in the combat configuration? I might add some more to that map tooltip so I can see it. Set combat configuration here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say combat configuration dot board configuration model dot board dimensions if os.is debug build. We're going to say var dimensions string is equal to dimensions.x board dimensions, and then we're going to do tier label.text plus equals board dimension strings. Okay. Let me just get some visibility on that now. Crocotile looks very cool indeed. Yeah, I think so. Maybe you should try it in the next game jam. Kenny Shape sounds like a good tool as well. Yeah, the stuff from Kenny is interesting. I was thinking the same thing when you mentioned the possibility of applying to a company. So that's a 3x3 board, 4x3 board, 3x2 board. So if I've got 50, score of 50 per cell, and I've got 900, so that's 18, right? So 3x2 is 6. So that's a way off. That's way off. 3x2 is 6. So if I needed to get up to 18 cells, that would be what? I mean, that's like 3x6. That would be a huge board for this early in the game. So maybe my scores are off again. I think I need to bump the scores down. I don't know if this is the way you're supposed to do your heuristic thing by just playing whack-a-mole with these numbers, but we're just going to forge ahead. bump these all back down. I'm starting to do a project inspired by Metal Slug, but when it comes to the animation part, I decided to follow your short on how to do animation. It's more easy. Maybe in the future I decide to real animation. Yeah. Did your other message get deleted, Jackie Daytona? I don't know what this Alchemortis is referring to, unless I just missed it. I've used Blender for 3D pixel art. There are some add-ons that help you unwrap the model. Unless you're an amazing mathematician, then yes, it's playing with numbers until it feels good. Okay, so I'm doing alchemy. I'm doing alchemy for my alchemy game is basically what's happening. I'm trying to find a way to transmute random numbers into gold. All right, all right. Sounds good. I am definitely not an amazing mathematician, so there you go. Okay, so 375. Okay, so we've got a lot more boards now that are being fit to their scores. So that's a good sign. 2 by 2, so that's 4 times 5, that's 200. It's a score of 375. May need to reduce these scores even more, but let's see. 3 by 2, so what? A 550 would be 10 cells. 3 by 2 is 6. So yeah, I don't know if maybe I just need to reduce those numbers even more. Because I want to make the board size based on the score as well, to some extent, I think, and also the health. Now I don't know if I should just have a single score that represents everything, or if I should have deduct from the score, or have the health contribute to the score and the board size contribute to the score, as well as the amount of cells that are occupied on the board contributing to the score. I don't know what to do about that, but five by 4. So that's 20 cells. 20 times 50 is, oh gosh. Yeah. 20 times 50 is 1,000. Okay. What's interesting here is that it looks like the only boards that are being fit to the score are the boards that are in the 500s and 600s, with an exception here. I almost wonder if I should reduce these even more. What's a performant way of implementing a timer in C# and Godot? Is there a reason why you can't just use the timer node? Arnovi? Or I guess I don't know what your use case is. I'm using a pretty nifty add-on for Blender to keep textile density consistent across all models. Implement a timer pool in C# that hooks into Godot's process only once for the entire pool. You may consider implementing it as a coroutine pool. Stay in the CLR VM as much as possible, because the expensive part is communicating back with Godot. Yeah, I guess I don't know what the use case is. I mean, I guess if you need thousands of timers, but also I don't see why. I guess I don't see, because if the timer node in Godot, I guess, yeah, because if the timer node is hooking individually into each process callback, even if it's in C++, that's going to have some overhead. But I honestly can't even imagine a situation where even if you had 1,000 timer nodes in Godot, that would make any appreciable difference in performance. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Thinking about hundreds, maybe even thousands of timers running concurrently. Yeah, so I think maybe then what Nick suggested, I think, yeah, the trick with C# is like you want to not interact with the Godot API. If you're doing something that's performance oriented, you want to avoid calling the Godot APIs as much as possible, because any data that you send to the Godot API or any function call you do has to be marshaled and unmarshaled, and there's a whole bunch of overhead associated with that. So if you could stay in like the C# layer as much as possible, that's where you're going to get your performance benefits. But obviously, if you need the timers to tick every game frame, then the best way to do it is what Nick said, which would be have one node that can override the process method, and that one node getting called will then tick all of your custom timers in a loop or whatever. I'm sure that would be the best way to do it. I'm really doubting though that even having thousands of timer nodes is going to make much of a noticeable difference, but maybe it's better just to do the pooled timer up front, since it sounds like relatively low effort and you just avoid any issues that might come up with thousands of nodes. Yeah, it sounds reasonable to me. All right, so we got to play with some numbers some more. I'm thinking about knocking these numbers down even more here. Let's knock everything down by 50. Good morning, Christopher. Or Chris, sorry. Good morning, Chris. Okay, we got a lot more boards being fit to the score properly. I think that's good. Score 250, board 2x2. So this makes more sense, right? So a 2x2 board is 4. If I multiply that by the individual cell score, which is 50, that's 200. Four by 3 is 12 times 50. What is 12 times 50? Can I do it here? 12 times 50? 600. Okay, that seems actually reasonable. So now it seems like what I can do is the scores are a little bit more reasonable now. So it seems like what I can do is I can now generate the board size in accordance with the score. And what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of variance to the board size, so it's just not like predictable, like, oh, these are all 5 by 5 boards, you know? But I will fit the board size a little bit to the score, place the cards in accordance with the score, and then if there's score left over after the cards are being placed, then what I'll do is I'll upgrade cards to make it work. I think this is going to work. I think this is going to work. And we can have a bias value as well, which I'm not going to implement just yet. Okay, so let's redo the this calculate board size here. We're gonna put an int score in here. Okay, and we're gonna say var ideal How am I gonna do this actually? Interesting. We didn't complete a game in time for the last Godot Wild Jam, but we decided to work on it as a long-term game. Oh, awesome. So GDD and story being written. Very cool. Do you have a little bit of background about the game you can share? If you want to share, that is. I demand that you share or else banned. No, I'm kidding. It would be great to hear about it though. So the tricky thing about calculating this board size is that I know how many cells I want, right? So ideal cell count is going to be score divided by difficulty score dot. Oh, I didn't make that public. I'm probably going to want like a static. Well, we can just put this public, whatever. So that's the ideal cell count, but then breaking that down into like dimensions, because if my ideal cell count is 20, for instance, I could either have a 4x5 board or a 5x4 board, right? But I could also do something like, it doesn't have to be exactly 20, it can be a 3x6 or a 6x3, it could get to 18 cells, right? Or it could go slightly above, it could do 22 cells, you know? Or 24 cells. So if it was 24, it could be 8x3, it could be 6x4. Single player 3D action RPG roguelike focused on melee combat. Okay, cool. I like it. Action RPG. You can play as almost any character that is in a story, so you affect the story by playing the other character. Okay, that's cool. That is very cool. I might have to do a lifeline here. Let's ask the AI. How can I take a number, ideal cell count, that represents the number of cells ideally on a square or on a rectangular board grid, such that I get varying dimensions. For example, an ideal 20 cell grid can be 4x5 or 5x4. An ideal 18 cell grid can be, or let's do 12 cell grid can be 6x2 or 3x4, etc. Let's see what the AI tells me. Take your time, Mr. Jeepers. Chat Jeepers T. Take your time. Mm-hmm. Riveting. Absolutely riveting. All right, well, I'll tell you what, while that Chat Jeepers T is working, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. And when I come back, we are going to just continue on with this. So again, we want to fit the board health and the board dimensions to the score. And then we're also going to want to upgrade cards in accordance with the score. So be right back in 3 minutes and we'll continue on. Alrighty, I'm back. Good old ChatGPT. Is Jeepers free, or do you need to pass it your own API on Visual Studio Code? You get free calls if you subscribe to Copilot, which I am. You get a certain number of free calls to GPT-5 per month. But there are a number of like free models as well. So GPT 4.1 doesn't use your quota at all, so you can make as many requests as you want. Claude would laugh at you. I switched to Claude, and it's 100 times better than GPT. They recently updated it, so ask clarifying questions if it's not sure. Yeah, I was using Claude for a while. I switched to GPT for a while. We're going to see. Maybe I'll go back. Running a local LLM with OLlama or LM Studio is a good combo. Yeah, I got to try that. I have enough memory in VRAM, so it should be doable. I think it would be slow, yeah, but I guess it depends again on your computing power. In future projects, do you intend to make traditional animation pixel art? No, I don't think so, but I guess it's not out of the question. Hello, Bomb That Explodes. Good to see you. All right, what does it say here? Get factor pairs. Get factor pairs. Interesting. Factor pairs 1 by 20, 2 by 10, 4 by 5. Interesting. Wait, you've been learning pixel art for so long and you're not planning to use it more frequently? I will use it. Yeah, I'm just not going to do frame by frame animation. At least that's not something I have in mind. Do I want to do this? Because I'm going to need to add a bunch of extra logic too to like filter out these very obviously bad ones, like 1 by 20 and 2 by 10. That's too large. I almost wonder if I could just come up with something simpler than that. I'm just trying to think. So if I had, what are my scores typically looking like here? They go up to 500. That doesn't seem right to me. That doesn't seem right to me. Let me think. 500, if I have a score per cell of 50, that's only 10 cells. That's going to be a relatively small board. Okay, maybe I need to go back the other direction. Because what I'm thinking is... I kind of don't want to do this. I'm almost thinking if I take... If I take the score divided by 2... Dimension x is equal to half score divided by difficulty score dot score per cell. Dimension y is that as well. We'll just set this to dimension x, I suppose. So if I have a score of 500 divided by 2, that's 250. Divided by the score per cell, that's 50. Or divided by this, yeah, divided by 50. That's 5. No, that should work. This would end up creating a 5 by 5 though, which is going to create a greater score. That's 25 cells. So I almost need to... Maybe the square root was right. So if I take the square root of 500, for instance... No, that's not right either. Oh wait, no, it would be... Yeah, this is not going to work. Man, why is this so hard? Hello, Vishal. What am I trying to accomplish here? Maybe I should just do the factor thing, I don't know. We can try that, I suppose. Get factor pairs. And I could just filter this out. What to say if D is less than 2 or D is greater than... Now I'm worried that this is actually not going to create... Yeah, the problem is I don't... Why is this so hard? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to come up with a board size that matches the score that I'm coming up with. So if the score is based on 50 points per cell, and I've got a score of 500, I want to come up with a board size that roughly matches that. I just don't know a proper way of doing it. I don't want to do this get factor pairs because that's going to give me a bunch of results like, oh, it's a 2x6 board, but it's like, that's kind of weird. Maybe I'll just try something simpler to start. Ideal cell count. Oh, that's not going to work either. Something's weird. Something's weird. Let me try something. I think what's the problem here? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just gonna remove this for a second. Restore that. Can I just put this back? That work? No? Thank you. I actually think my scores are not right again. Because if I'm saying there's a score of 50 per cell, but my top scores are only like 600 at most, that's basically saying that a board should only have 12 cells, which is not right. The top scores need to be closer to like 1500. So I think once again, yeah, this is just it's just a crapshoot here, I guess. I'm just gonna beef all these up again. I'm just gonna beef all these up again. Does the board have to be square? Can it be also a rectangle? It can be rectangular, yeah. Let's go all the way up here. Score 837. Let's beef them up again. Okay, I think that's closer to what I want. Might be too much, but we can just tweak these numbers. All right. So if my top board now is 1700, that's going to give me 34. Yeah, that seems more reasonable to me. Score 1500 with 50 per cell, make a 30 cell board, which can make 6x5 or 3x10. Which one of those grid dimensions you prefer? Well, I don't want them to be super long. That's the problem. I don't want it to be like, you know, 2x12 or whatever. So I think what I want to do is, I mean, let's just see. Let's just see what I can come up with here. Let's do int score. Score divided by difficulty score per cell. So we have the cell count. I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with this without doing some kind of like factor system, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I should just, I don't know. I keep going back and forth on this, but here's what I'll do. Let's just do the factors. Let's filter out any factors. Factors is equal to get factor pairs dot where x. The problem is as the board gets larger, I might just do this manually here. Let's just try this first before we introduce anything else. I'm just going to say we probably want to reintroduce some variance in here, but random pair is equal to factors RNG rand I range. I guess we have to make sure that the factor pairs is not 0. We'll just do this. If factors dot count is equal to 0, new vector 2i, 2, 2. Swapped is equal to RNG.rand. Sign is equal to 1. Question mark. New vector 2. Random pair.y, random pair.x. Otherwise, we can just do random pair. Oh. Vector 2i. All right. Let's see what that does. How long can they be maximum? I think no greater than like 8 or 9 is what I want. So that's a 2x2 board. That's a 2x2. That's a 2x2. That's a 2x2. That's a 2x2. So we got a lot of 2x2 boards. That's a problem. Wait, why are these all 2x2? That's not right. Okay, so it's broken. Hmm. Zero is the ideal cell count. Am I not passing in the oh, I'm still, oh, oops, I forgot to pass in the score here. args.fit to score. There we go. Okay, now let's try it. All right, this one, 7x2. Why is that 700? Something's very wrong. What? Okay, this is just not working. This approach is absolutely 100% and totally not working. nerf some of those numbers again. Okay, that's 2x2. That's 2x5, 2x5. Still not looking all right. 6x2, that's not good. These are 2x2. Why is that happening? I don't think this factor code is working. Yeah, that code is just not working at all. All right, I'm gonna have to come up with a different strategy for that. Just came to mind, showing a visual preview of the enemy board on mouse hover, previews of the enemy board on mouse hover rather than just a list of names. Yeah, that's on the to-do list. That's on the to-do list. I don't know how to do this. I guess, I think it maybe was on the right track with, if I get this ideal cell count and then I do var dimensions is equal to ideal cell count dot, or no, mathf square root ideal cell count. Let me just print that. I want to see what that does. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of 3 in here. 4 zeros. I almost just liked my old board generation stuff. So let's just I'm just going to put that back. We're not going to worry about the board size right now. I'll just keep the current board size determination in place. The thing that I want to do though is I want to change the card upgrade count. So this board generate, what we're going to do is, let me take this, generate board, get score for board. I am going to move this into my difficulty scorer here. Get score for board, board inventory component. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to need to do is get score for card. We're going to want to do an additional scoring public const int additional cell score per tier. We'll set that to 25. So then what we're going to do is this card here, the tier is 1 by default. I should have made that a 0-based tier. I don't know why I didn't do that. Oh well. So when we get score for card, we're going to do this plus base card dot tier -1 times relative base card dot relative occupied cells dot count times additional cell per tier. Okay. So we're gonna have to play with that as well. But in my combat configuration here, card upgrade count, this is gonna go away. We're gonna get rid of that. While Difficulty score dot get score for board. This is a board configuration model. Board configuration model. Card positions. I'm going to need to change this real quick. Board configuration model. Public static int get score for board configuration model. Okay, that'll work. So get score for board configuration model. It's less than args.fit to score. Upgrade random card. Okay. We will see how that works. Yeah, we're going to do a lot of quality of life stuff eventually. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. Always good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. And of course, we have the Yummers message. Thank you, Snupbill. Very much appreciate that. High Law missed the block. There's more things important than size. Okay. All right. Approximately how many lines of code do you think so far? Last time I checked, it was 30,000. I don't think it's changed much. Yeah, C sharp 36,000, almost 37,000. So, I mean, it's a decently sized project, but not super big. All right, let's see what that does. I don't have high hopes for this, but I think the main thing is if I get everything controlled by scoring, then it should just be a matter of tweaking the scores until it feels right. As long as everything else is algorithmic, then it should be all right. What command did I use to check that? There's an extension called like VS Code line count or something. So if you have the extension installed, you can do something. All right, this is not working either. I think that while loop is not working. Although it shouldn't take that long. Boy, this is a nightmare. I don't know why that's freezing. Let's just turn this up. Really, it's getting stuck on that while loop? Why? Why is it getting stuck? I put an equation for the board size and game dev and the values n for the amount of cells grid can have. I'll check it out. Do you dwell on unfixed bugs when you're outside? No, not really. I think it's easy not to dwell on bugs if you write them down somewhere. If you document the bugs somewhere and just put them in your backlog, they're easy to forget about because then you can just go back and fix them. I don't know why that's freezing. I mean, I guess I could understand why it would take a little bit longer, but unless it's freezing somewhere else. Does the game just not want to start? What did I do? What did I do? Maybe if I do attach to process. Is it stuck somewhere else? I have no idea why it's freezing. What did I change? I didn't really change anything. Oh, oops. It's because I forgot to change this back. Oh, I think that's what it is. Node.tier. I think that's what it is. Okay. I'm generating these massive boards. That's why. Okay, never mind. I figured it out. Okay. Will this game have a Google Stadia port? I've never heard anyone using Google Stadia. When's the next playtest coming? Can't wait. Well, it's supposed to be near Halloween, but that may not happen. I may have to delay it a little bit. Yeah, these scores are like way off. This should not have a 700 score. Am I still doing... Hold on a second. Am I still doing this right? I don't know. I'm kind of stumped. I think I need to think about this a little bit more. I don't know at this point if there's something fundamentally wrong with how I'm doing the difficulty calculations or if it's just a matter of tweaking these things. These numbers here. Let me just try turning them down a little bit again. Let's do this one 75. Combat, I'm going to turn back down. Upgrade card is 100. Booster, let's tune it down to 200. Let's do 300 here. Reagent, 150. Let's see what that produces. Score 400. Why is that already 400? That's 1, 2. Oh, maybe I should do this. Instead of doing... I should do minimum traversals -1. Maybe? Okay, that score is 200. That's a little bit more reasonable, I think. 216, 200, 200, 16, 290, 290. Those are all 290. 482, 500, 500, 500, 554, 547. There's also 547. $621, $633, $636, $636, $636. Okay. I think it might just be a matter of me playing with this algorithm a little bit. Need them Big Mac calories to restore brain power, seriously. Sorry, double quarter pounder with cheese. Oh, wow, I can't talk. Sorry, double quarter pounder with cheese, yeah. Macfish. All right, well, I think I need to go and think about this a little bit deeper. Right now, I'm kind of spinning my wheels. So work on... So I've got to... I'm going to just end the stream there. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and just noodle on this a little bit. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Again, you can wishlist Alka Mortis on Steam. It's available for wishlisting. Like I just said, you can also consider supporting the game on Patreon. You can join the Discord for free, all that good stuff. Hello, Juicy Benjamin. Sorry, just leaving. Yeah, joined right at the end. That's right. Good to see you, though. But yeah, have a good day, everybody. And I will be streaming tomorrow at 10 a.m. as well. So hope to see you back, and I'll be able to update you with any changes I made to the difficulty algorithm here. But yeah, thanks again. Have a good day, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.